The politics refuses to die down, the fear-mongering refuses to die down, but the question is that the Prime Minister has raised tonight. Are Hindus targets, easy targets, sitting ducks, that their faith is always on target, their feelings are always hurt, almost freely by every political party? It's a question the political parties need to answer. On the other side, Sadhguru Ji joins me on the news hour. I was at the Isha Ashram of Sadhguru Ji earlier today, this morning, recorded this interview with Sadhguru Ji, asked him questions on Ram, secularism, spiritualism, and much more. That interview coming up on the other side. Namaskaram, Sadhguru Ji. Once again we meet on Frankly Speaking, and this time in the Isha Ashram here. And the peace and tranquility, the atmosphere, I don't know what to say. I'm just soaking it in, and it is really special to be here. Sadhguru Ji, we are also talking to you at a time when we are on the cusp of a cultural and a civilizational renaissance. 22nd of January is a date that this country is waiting with bated breath for. What are your thoughts at this moment in terms of reclaiming our cultural and religious ethos?
See, in the life of any nation, many aberrations happen. Unfortunately, this is how human beings have been. But when we reclaim certain things, we are supposed to fix certain things. For example, when the Arabian armies took over Spain in 8th century, literally every cathedral they converted it into mosques. But when they regained it in 13th century, they built back everything without exception. So this should have been done before 1950. From 47 to 50 we should have done this. And because a nation grows, nation's ability to be successful is not just in its resources, politics, military, it's the spirit of the people. If people feel defeated, they're not going to do great things. So I think this is over 70 years overdue, if you ask me. So it's a very good step. I wish it could happen without acrimony, because everybody knows it was a temple site, because the invaders who destroyed it, they themselves have recorded that we destroyed it with great pride, they have written it down. We must understand, because their intention of destroying such magnificent structures was not just for plunder. They could have taken what they wanted and left the temple. Gold, diamonds, whatever they could take and leave the stones alone, but they destroy mainly to break the spirit of the people. That is the intent. Especially when Muhammad Ghaznavi comes to, Mathura, their historian records that we have never seen a structure like this, as beautiful and as magnificent and as huge as this. This cannot be the work of a man. Men cannot do this, this is work of gods. He writes that, and they proceed to destroy the temple anyway. Because it is not about loot, it is not about conquest, it is about breaking the backbone of human spirit, because that's where it is. So putting this back is a very important thing. But I wish the leaders of two communities have enough sense to sit down, talk, and we can do this without this acrimony. We can do this without making another community feeling defeated at this point, because we need their spirit also to build this nation. They should not feel defeated. But unfortunately it is being translated like that by a few people, but generally I think there is an upsurge of spirit, not against anybody, of their own pride of being who they are, which is wonderful for the next phase of this nation's growth and development, because as we know, this demographic dividend that we have won't last forever. We have a window of 15 to 25 years. If we don't hit it now, we won't do it. We will be… Right now we are very proud, we are a young nation. In 25-30 years we'll be an old nation, all right, with 1 billion people. 1 billion people over 60 years of age is not a good thing for a nation, but we will get there anyway. So before that, if we don't really upgrade people's lives, for this you need a very spirited participation of the population. Just governments cannot do this. So that spirit, I think is… there are many aspects to that spirit, but this whole thing of if you're successful you must leave the country is going away. Those who are successful want to come back to the country, though in living standards there may be a big drop, but still they want to come back because the spirit. This is important, that the best minds, the best talent and the highest level of competence stays in the country. For this, all these things are very essential.
When people today come out and have an altercation on who's invited, who's not invited for the 22nd of January, if they are invited, why they are invited, who's the government to invite them, is this a state festival, is it against the constitution, what happens to the definition itself of a secular country?
Well, I must tell you, I have an invite. It did not come from the government of India, it came from the Ram Janmabhoomi Trust. So, I'm humbled that they invited me, but unfortunately my schedules are such that I'm not in the country at that time because my schedules are planned 6 to 8 months ahead of time. This came much later. So I will not be there on that day, but the invite is coming from… You must understand, this whole movement was not handled by any great leaders. At some point maybe some leaders interjected in some things, but rest of the time it's been handled by ordinary people for 500 years. Look at the resilience, look at the spirit and look at the patience. 500 years, you keep a cause going. How many people have done that in the world? 500 years. It's incredible, and this is all done by ordinary people those who filed cases, you just go and look at their backgrounds. From then onwards, I'm saying, from 18th, 19th century onwards, you see what sort of people filed cases, simple, ordinary people. And even today it is like that, just to meet the people who are in the trust, very ordinary people. And it's fantastic that they have managed to do this. Now, of course, government is participating in it, the UP government is participating in the arrangements and everything. When such a big event is happening, such a… what to say… a historically significant event is happening, if the government doesn't participate, it'll be foolish. But at the same time, should it become a government function? Definitely not. I don't believe that it should be.
Is it?
It is not. It is not. They invited me, I know who invited me. Government did not invite me, it's not a government of India or government of UP function. But organization around it has to be done by the government, who else will do it? We hold Mahashivratri here, though the government may be whatever it is, but they send all the arrangements, the police and this and that and fire and whatever else is needed. Similarly, everywhere it needs to be done, wherever people gather, it's government's business to provide everything.
So, when people begin to question that the secular nature of the state is being altered, how would you respond to those critics?
I think you should show them a dollar bill. It says, "In God we trust." The dollar bill. Well, you think they're talking about Shiva or Rama or Krishna? They're talking about their God, whatever they believe in. So that is not considered not secular? You go to any big major event in England, without the chaplain, you can't start the event. The same goes for when the American president is being sworn in. Without the priest, it won't happen. They participate. What's the problem with us? Secular doesn't mean kill all the religions. Secular does not mean atheistic. Secular means every religion has equal right to participate. But definitely we are not a secular country because even our temples are not in our hands. The government is running our temples, how are we a secular nation? We are not a secular nation according to me.
So, the status of Indian temples, the pride of Indian temples, historically we've seen many of these temples being destroyed in the northern part of India because of invasions.
Not many, almost everything in north. The northern plains, just everything has been taken out. Whatever you have now is hurriedly put together, small shacks.
But there are men who come out and say that the youth should be in mosques because the Ram temple is being built. Now it's time for awakening and people to be present in mosques. Do you think this is provocation, or do you think this is incitement, or do you think this is a limited level of vote bank politics?
See, anybody can be wherever they want, but legal recourse will happen according to the laws, the framework of laws. At that time also Rama was trying to establish dharma, we are also still trying to establish dharma. As I said, nobody should go and occupy any property forcefully. It's been done in the past, but you can't do it now. Because that is within the framework of law, you cannot do that. But if the courts rule whatever, everybody will have to whether they like it or not. If somebody saying be in the mosque, I don't think that's a problem, it's okay. They want to be in the mosque, they can be in the mosque, what is wrong with that? I don't think, it means a lot to them, so let them be there, it's perfectly fine. But one sentence of 1,000 years of work, I think that must be taken back.
By Asaduddin Owaisi?
Yes, whoever said it, it should be taken back because these 1,000 years have been of pillage, destruction, slaughter. Don't identify with that. Just because you follow a certain religion, do not identify with the indignities and the sufferings of this population. Do not do that. That should not be done, that is not allowed. But
and that's not provocation in this country?
I think law should take its course on that also. It's not that you have to go, somebody has to go and do something else by themselves. There is enough law for those kind of things. Somebody is saying this 1,000 years of work, what is the work? If you identify with that, then there is a serious problem. Do not create that problem, because ordinary people, no matter whether they're going to temple, mosque or church, they all want to make their lives better. That's all they're asking for. You're trying to mislead them because only in this misleading you have power. No, people will see through this, but of course a certain percentage of population will get incited. So if the law doesn't handle it, I would say our law enforcement, our process of law is irresponsible. If somebody can identify with the invaders and say we have done 1,000 years of work of pillage and slaughter and rape and loot, and it's okay and we are identifying with that. It's been done, we can't undo it. For whatever reason it's been done, we can't undo it. We have no resentment. We are only seeing how to make things right, wherever we can make things right. But when people identify with that with pride, then there is an issue. That issue must be handled by law, not on the street.
What about the language row? You touched upon it, but there are real differences that exist. There was a recent meeting of the India Alliance where Nitish Kumar was not understood by M.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, because of the language barrier.
I want to tell you also, I turn on the news for English news and you guys are all talking in Hindi, what am I supposed to do?
You should be able to
Why?
Understand.
I understand that's not the problem, but what about all the other people who don't understand? See, you call it a Times Now English channel. 40% of the time or 50% of the time, in some debates nearly 60 to 70% of the time, you're talking only Hindi.
That's because…
Why don't you talk Bengali?
People who come on
Arey,
the
don't
channel
invite
from
them if they
political
can't
party.
speak English in an English channel.
Half of them have boycotted me. Now you want me to boycott the other half.
No, not boycotting. Take them into your Hindi channel.
There are certain political parties whose representatives end
Ask
up
them
speaking in
to, if
Hindi.
they want a representation, if they want a national audience, they must train somebody in English and send.
But then these are regional parties coming together to make a national footprint.
See,
Are you saying they should not be…
I'm not saying no. See, whatever regional party, almost all of them are sending their children to English medium schools. So if the children are going to speak English, let them also learn some. This is a country of diversity. Instead of being proud of it, we are struggling with it. That's the tragedy. When we have over… Actually, if you recognize over 19,000 languages, but 1,300 languages have been clearly identified with reasonable amount of script and literature, whatever. Nearly 30 languages with huge body of literature is there. So when we made the states, the republic, we went for linguistic division because we thought all these languages should live. Because many of these languages, southern Indian languages, have more literature than English language, far more literature. But now because their populations have shrunk, populations have not shrunk, you guys have improved your population, and suddenly you say Hindi, Hindi.
But when the North is called, oh, they won these states because these are Gaumukha states.
See, I also responded to that comment because he said, this is Hindustan, you must speak Hindi. Who said Hindu is Hindi? So those who speak other languages are not Hindu, is it? This is Hindustan, land of Hindus, not land of Hindi. I mean, somebody who is a political leader of some stature doesn't understand the difference between Hindu and Hindi, then I had to respond.
What is the horoscope of the country? Because we are meeting right now in the new year. What do you think 2024 has in store for us as a nation?
I think we are at an inflection point where if you do the right things now, the country is bound for a very, very rich time. But there are many fundamental issues which are hard to fix issues. One thing is there is climate issues, which is global, of course. Soil issues are very serious, 1.4 billion people, and our soil organic content is 0.62%, which is very close to desertification, dangerously low. So these things have to be fixed, but can it be fixed? Yes, it can be fixed. We placed ourselves geopolitically in a very nice place. We send aid to Ukraine, but we buy oil from Russia on rupee basis. We send aid to Palestine and we have a big trade with Israel. And we buy oil from UAE now on a rupee basis. These are not small things. Never before we've done this. Never before most countries have not done this kind of tightrope walking efficiently. Thanks to all the people involved. And we say this is not an era of war. But we constantly threaten our neighbor, if you mess with us, we're going to come for you. These are very nuanced approaches, and at the same time, these approaches are coming from certain strength, which is important, otherwise it won't work. If you didn't have the strength, it won't work. So people recognize the strength, and we are the fifth largest. I think we will be fourth in no time, probably by the end of this year or at least by mid-25. And being the third largest should happen by 2030 or so, 2030 or 2032. I feel it'll happen sooner than later.
And political future?
In the sense?
In the sense it's also a year of elections?
Only Bharatiyas will be elected, that's a good thing.
Well, people can read whatever they want into that last…
No, I'm saying only Indian citizens will be elected, so what's the problem?
Bharatiya. Okay. I get your point. I'm sure our viewers will, because It is English on an English channel. So but Bharat, is it English? Bharatiya, is it English?
See, we are not an English nation, but we were ruled by English. So, calling this country by a name, an English name, is a very silly thing. We should have changed this. 1947, that night, August 15th, August 16th, it should have been Bharat, because Bharat reverberates in people's minds and hearts.
Sadhguruji, as always, pleasure speaking with you. Profound meaning in ordinary things, the way you explain, I don't think
that is
anybody
this civilization, that is this nation. Profoundness in everything.
Thank you very much for joining me, and we do hope we will meet again more often in this new year.
You must come here.
I'm absolutely totally overjoyed with the experience I've had, and I'm sure I'll be back.